It's Whiskey Awards season, and the always exciting Online Scotch Whisky Awards for 2025 are upon us. They're almost here, and voting is now closed. Roy Duff of the Aqvavitae channel, Ralfy Mitchell of the Whiskey Bothy channel will be hosting this year's Online Scotch Whisky Awards this Saturday, November 1st at 6 p.m. BST or 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I'm located here in British Columbia, Canada. In this video, I'm going to take you through each category. I'm going to let you know what my picks were and also who I predict will win each category. It's always fun speculating and debating these awards and who will win. And if you're following along with the OSWAs, maybe you voted yourself, let me know in the comments who you think will win and who your picks were. Let's get to it. My name is Matt. This is Whiskey on the West Coast. The first category is Best Value Whiskey, one of the most competitive and honestly one of the most interesting categories of the entire awards. Value is not necessarily the same thing as cheap as the description would tell you on the awards ceremony. They're looking for fairly priced whiskeys that also offer high quality, and this year's nominations keep up with that trend. And the nominations are the Ardnamurchan AD Sherry Cask, the Benromach 10-year-old, the Craigellachie 13-year-old, Glen 10-year-old, Signatory Vintage 100 Proof Series, and the Thompson Brothers Mystery Malt Series. This is always a tough and competitive category, and I actually have 5 of the whiskeys from this category on hand in my whiskey collection. I think an interesting development this year is the inclusion of whiskey series. And it's great to see things like the Signatory Vintage 100 Proof Series gain some recognition along with the Thompson Brothers Mystery Malt Series. I've enjoyed both of those greatly. That said, I don't necessarily think it's fair to have these whiskeys that represent 15 or 20 different individual single malt Scotch whiskeys go up against singular bottles. I think there needs to be a way to represent these bottles in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, but outside of this specific category. I know the OSWAs would like to remain quite compact and concise, but the inclusion of a, let's say, best whiskey series category could be a nice way to recognize these great whiskey series while also keeping the playing field level. It would also be a great way to balance the awards. The awards currently sit at 9 whiskey awards, and it'd get us up to a nice round number of 10. So I think that'd be cool. I think it'd be a great way to recognize this like whiskey niche. And first year nominees, if we have it next year, could be things like the Signatory Vintage 100 Proof Series, the Thompson Brothers Mystery Malt Series. How about the Springbank Sherrywood Series as we're coming to a close with that? Perhaps Kilhoman's 20th Anniversary Cask Series, or Compass Box's Extinct Blends Quartet. There's so many options for this for us to really celebrate whiskey series that we are enjoying. So yeah, I would suggest that we look at that in the future. Anyways, back on subject, the other interesting development with this specific category is that 3-time winner Aaron 10-year-old is not actually even nominated this year. What's more is last year's winner, the Kilkerran 12-year-old, also isn't nominated. I think this may be less of a narrative about, let's say, the quality of these whiskeys dropping and more to do with people broadening their whiskey horizons, being keen to seek something different. As for the nominees this year, I'm a huge fan of the Ardnamurchan AD Sherry Cask. The Benromach 10-year-old is something I always keep on the shelf, and I've personally discovered the incredible value that can be found in the Thompson Brothers Mystery Malt Series when I uncovered my bottle of Mystery Malt earlier this year. It only cost 65 pounds for what was in fact a very old whiskey that I had in my hands. However, I may not have felt the same way about the value proposition with the Thompson Brothers Mystery Malt Series had I, say, uncovered a 4-year-old McNean instead of what I did. So that's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose. With that said, my pick for Best Value Whiskey Award is actually my current #1 affordable single malt, and that is the Craigellachie 13-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey. It's a delicious, characterful whiskey that seemingly is on sale 11 months of the year in my market in Western Canada, Alberta, for $50 Canadian. You just cannot beat that. That's like, I think that's under 30 pounds. It's an incredible price. And yeah, I challenge you to beat that in the whiskey value department. My prediction for who's going to win this category, though, is going to be the Signatory Vintage 100 Proof Series. It honestly, the series is just, this line has taken the whiskey community and the indie scene by storm. You cannot deny the value that is found in these whiskeys, bottled at 100 British proof or 57.1% ABV, presented in a natural way. Some of the highlights of this series so far have included like some really good Tamdus, Glenlivet's, Secret Orkney or Highland Parks, but in particular, people seem to be keying in on these Speyside M's or these secret Macallans like this one here. Undoubtedly, again, great values at $115 to $150-ish Canadian. I could see the Signatory Vintage taking this category home. The next OSWA's category is Best Blended Whiskey. The nominations in this category are the Cadenhead 7 Stars Blended Scotch, the Compass Box Nectarosity Blended Scotch, Living Souls 99 and 1. I'm going to stop saying blended Scotch. The McLean's Nose, the Nika from the Barrel Blended Whiskey, and the Thompson Brothers TBBSW 6-year-old. I'm going to say it again, blended Scotch. Another very competitive category this one is, and I don't know why I said that like Yoda, but I did. I feel like last year's People's Choice winner, McLean's Nose, as well as the actual Online Scotch Whisky Award winner for this category last year, the TBBSW 6-year-old from Thompson Brothers, would be good betting favorites to win this category again. I appreciate the genuine quality and exceptional price of those blended scotches at right around 35 pounds, I believe. Super reasonable prices, but there is a whiskey that has been garnering a lot of buzz and generating a lot of momentum throughout this year leading up to this award. And so my pick and prediction is going to be a whiskey that I only got to try once while I was on my honeymoon in Scotland. And it hasn't yet arrived in my market, but it is about to this fall. And that would be the Living Souls 99 and 1 Blended Scotch Whiskey. It's a whiskey that smells and tastes unbelievable and with a great story at a phenomenal price. It's a product and an accident of whiskey serendipity. This is a whiskey that is 99% 18-year-old Lacheg single malt from the Tobermory Distillery and 1% 3-year-old grain whiskey. At this point, it kind of feels like a cheat code to only have 1% of the blended scotch be grain whiskey. But by the letter of the law, is it blended Scotch whiskey? Yes. If it tastes this good, who cares? Especially if it's at a reasonable price, which this one is. It's essentially half the price of a Legic 18-year-old single malt from the actual distillery itself. Quite a phenomenal price for a phenomenal whiskey. Up next is Best Blended Malt Whiskey, one of my favorite categories because I am a blend fiend. I love blended malts, I love blended scotches too, but you can find just so much value in these categories. So the nominations for this category this year are the Campbelltown Lock Blended Malt Scotch, the Compass Box Crimson Casks Blended Malt Scotch, Compass Box Orchard House Blended Malt, North Star Campbelltown Connection, the Old Perth Palo Cortado Blended Malt, and the Thompson Brothers Sutherland 5-year-old blended malt Scotch whiskey. We've got a strong group of contenders here. Let's start off with talking about the Compass Box Orchard House, which is rumored to be departing us soon, sadly, which makes it seem fitting that the Compass Box Crimson Casks makes its first appearance in this category. It's good to see strong Compass Box representation here because I am a fan of Compass Box releases and I'm a fan of both of these ones as well, but it's a super competitive category. And I will say, I jumped at the chance when I was on my honeymoon to try the Thompson Brothers Sutherland 5-year-old blended malt at the Ensign Ewart in Edinburgh on the Royal Mile. And I would buy a bottle here in Canada if I could, but Thompson Brothers isn't imported here. It was a phenomenal whiskey, 5-year-old Dornox malt, along with Kleinleash and a small portion of Brora. Really cool whiskey. Another whiskey I want to mention here, I didn't have an opportunity to try the North Star Spirits Campbelltown Connection, but a vatting of 10-year-old Springbank and Glen Scotia hogsheads with an addition of 1994 Springbank and 25-year-old Glen Scotia, bottled at 50.7%, sounds extremely interesting. However, My pick and my prediction this year is actually the whiskey that won last year, and that is the Campbelltown Lock blended malt whiskey from J&A Mitchell. Not only is it a fantastic whiskey, it's also a fantastic way to get to try something that was made at the Springbank and Glengyle distilleries if you are unable to get bottles from Springbank or Glengyle. It's also really affordable. It performs very well. If we sold it in Canada, does that sound familiar? I would have a bottle on my shelf, but for some reason we get Springbank 10, Kilkerran 12, and all the other bottlings, but we don't get Campbelltown Lock. Let's fix that. Anyways, one of the other things that's really interesting about this whiskey, and one of the reasons I'm so desperate to have a bottle on my shelf, is that what really builds is the base of this whiskey is, to my knowledge, unpeated spirit from the Glengyle distillery, unpeated Kilkerran malt. They don't sell that anywhere else. I don't know where else you can get it. It's only made for this whiskey as far as I understand. So really, this is the only way that you can actually get to try that, which is pretty cool, which is just another reason why, one, this is my pick. Number two, I feel like everyone should at least try it. And number three, why I want it on my shelf. The Campbelltown Lock blended malt Scotch whiskey. That's my pick. The fourth category is best non-malt whiskey. There's more than one kind of whiskey in the world, and this category in particular is open to all grain types except malt. So the nominations in this category are the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Kentucky Straight Bourbon, the Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof Whiskey, Millstone 100 Dutch Single Rye, the Old Forester 1920 Prohibition, Powers John's Lane 12-year-old single pot still Irish whiskey, and the Stag Kentucky Straight Bourbon. I'll be frank, I did not vote in this category. Why? Because I have had too few of the whiskeys in it within the past year. Of these whiskeys, the only one I've actually had this year was the Stag, and that was back in January, which feels like an age ago. It would be fraudulent for me to cast a ballot in this category, which is the reason why I just passed on it. My prediction, however, and take this one with a grain of salt, is the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Kentucky Straight Bourbon. Why? Because I feel like it's often held up or gets the nod as a excellent quality bourbon that isn't as hard to get as something like Stag. That's also in this category. I'd give an outside chance to the Powers 12-year-old single pot still Irish, given that it's much closer in profile to malt whiskey than bourbon. But I'm going to stick with my prediction, which is the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Next up is best distillery category, which I think is one of the absolute hardest ones to determine. A huge award, and one of the ones I look forward to seeing the winner of the most every year. The nominations are the Ardnamurchan Distillery, the Benromach Distillery, the Bruichladdich Distillery, the Glasgow Distillery, the Loch Lomond Distillery, and the Springbank Distillery. This is one of the big three awards at the OSWAs, in my opinion, and it's definitely one of the most competitive. It's hard to distinguish between great distilleries such as these. And Springbank is always one of the favorites to take home this award every year. But personally, I think almost any of these distilleries can challenge them in this category. For my own personal list of top 10 distilleries, 4 of these distilleries are represented in that list. And it's going to be incredibly difficult for me to split hairs and determine which of these is my favorite this year, or the best distillery this year. So please help me. My pick for the OSWA for best distillery this year is going to be a controversial one within my household. It is the Ardnamurchan Distillery. This year, Kyla's giving me a what look. She cannot believe it. Scenes, absolute scenes. This year, Ardnamurchan absolutely delivered in my market. The Paul and Wall release impressed with its bright, fizzy effervescence. The Sauternes and Mezcal releases gave us brand new takes on the Ardnamurchan single malt spirit that we had not seen before. The fan favorite 80 Sherry Cask release, the second one, that came through. Fantastic as always. It was nominated in the best value category, as you guys saw earlier, as well as a seminal moment for this distillery, releasing their first broad release of a 10-year-old single malt, the AD10, which I quite enjoyed. It was a little bit divisive with some, but I really liked it. On top of that, the best release of the year from Ardnamurchan might be the second edition of the Madeira Cask. I don't know, fight me over that one. I'm loving the Madeira Cask release, and the first one was fantastic. The Midgie just landed in my market this week in Alberta, and I've enjoyed the Midgie when I visited the Ardnamurchan Distillery earlier this year on my honeymoon. Oh, and I almost forgot, there was an excellent peated Kensington Wine Market single cask that came this year as well, which was phenomenal. As a final touch, each and every one of these whiskeys was somewhere between $100 to $150 Canadian, with most of them right around that like $110, $115 mark. Ardnamurchan friggin' cooked this year, guys. I'm telling you, I love Bruichladdich, I love Benromach, Springbank. Oh, my heart goes out to thee. But I'm telling you, Ardnamurchan had a fantastic year this year. That is my pick. Getting to my prediction, I actually forgot to put out a bottle representing Ardnamurchan as my pick. There it is right there, that Madeira cask. Guys, go try that. It's fantastic. My prediction for who's going to win is, well, Springbank. Yeah, Springbank. Why? Well, it's many people's favorite distillery. It's the only distillery that I'm aware of that actually uses fresh unicorn tears in the floor malting process. But to be serious, the versatility, the quality, the characterful whiskey, unlike that made anywhere else. Springbank really is one of a kind. The Hazelburn Long Row and Springbank distillate is all fantastic. The place is legendary for a reason, and I fully expect them to win this category once again. The next category up is Best New Distillery, and the thing you need to know about this category is that in order to be eligible to win it, your distillery has to be founded within the last 10 years. So it can't be more than 10 years old. And the nominations this year are the Ardnahoe Distillery from Islay, the Glasgow Distillery from the Lowlands, Holyrood Distillery in the Lowlands, Lag Distillery, technically Lowlands, not Islands, Lochleigh Distillery, the Lowlands, and White Peak Distillery. A lot of Lowlands in there. White Peak also of Derbyshire, England. An English distillery snuck in there this year, guys. That's exciting. This category is kind of ups for grabs. Cool diction, Matthew. This category is up for grabs as the distillery that's owned this category over the last number of years has aged out. The Ardnamurchan Distillery is now more than 10 years old, and as such, under the rules of the new distillery category, it does not qualify. So that leaves this wide open for others to win. The Glasgow Distillery has been making a lot of headlines with their small batch releases in particular. I haven't tried a lot of them, but the Manzanilla cask seemed to be a popular one, and Aqvavitae's brand new bourbon cask small batch release has been popular with barflies. So I would say Glasgow definitely has a chance to win this category. Lochleigh has a brand new revamped core range. But I think most of us haven't yet had a chance to try it as it's really quite new. Holyrood's arrival from a couple years ago was a great inaugural release. And the more recent pitch, actually, it certainly turned heads. It was quite a unique whiskey when I enjoyed it when I tried it at the distillery. Overall, it's a very competitive category. However, none of those distilleries are my pick. My pick and prediction for Best New Distillery is the Ardnahoe Distillery from Islay. And it wasn't exactly a hard decision, if I'm being honest with you guys. Islay's newest edition hasn't really put a step wrong since it hit the scene. It waited till its spirit was ready. The Infinite Lock, which was their follow-up to the inaugural release, really was solid. The Bolsa gave us a nice sneak peek at how their spirit interacts with sherry casks. And with the new cask strength about to hit shelves, I believe next week in the UK, they continue to seem to give us exactly what we want. But the key here really is the whiskey that might be the best inaugural whiskey release ever, which was this Ardnahoe inaugural 5-year-old. It was phenomenally good whiskey. And even though it came out a few years ago, I'm still living off the high that is this inaugural. I'm flummoxed. Like, it's just so good for 5 years old. It has no business being this good. I thought the Ardnamurchan inaugural release or the Daftmill inaugural releases might have been the best whiskey releases ever. I got to try the Ardnamurchan one, not the Daftmill. But no, I agree with Roy Duff, who I've stolen this opinion from. Roy's a smart man. This probably, in my opinion, is the best inaugural whiskey release ever. And it's the reason why I think they're the best new distillery at this moment, the Ardnahoe Distillery. Also, we visited the distillery on Islay, and Kyla does not infrequently bring up the gift shop. She thought it was a beautiful distillery for what it's worth. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I highly suggest you visit it if you're on Islay. Up next is Best Independent Bottler, with the nominations being Cadenheads, Gordon Macphail, Living Souls, Signatory Vintage, Thompson Brothers, and Watt Whiskey. Right away, I find this interesting that, you know, Cadenheads, Gordon Macphail, Signatory Vintage, I think they've all been on this list right from the first Online Scotch Whisky Awards. But Living Souls, Thompson Brothers, Watt Whiskey are more recent phenomenons. With I know Living Souls is their first nomination, and Thompson Brothers, they haven't been around for long, but they've garnered a lot of fans quickly, winning this category last year. So yeah, really interesting category. My pick this year is going to actually be the same as my pick every year, because I'm an absolute nut for this independent bottler, and that is the Gordon and Macphail. The Gordon and Macphail. Why? Quality and bang for your buck that you get in the Connoisseur's Choice range, like this whiskey here, a Scapa 24-year-old from the year 2000. Just an awesome price in Canada to have something like this in our market. It's just simply unbeatable in Canada. The type of whiskeys, the quality of the whiskeys that they're bringing, their cask management program is second to none. I am infatuated with Gordon Macphail as an independent bottler, and when I think of the 10 best whiskeys I have ever had in my life, Gordon Macphail has bottled at least half of them. For this reason, Gordon Macphail is my pick. Full stop. My prediction, and I'm gonna have to grab another coaster, I didn't do that earlier. My prediction on who's gonna win, though, however, it's not Gordon Macphail. It is going to be the People's Choice winner from last year, which is Signatory Vintage. Really, it's on the back of the incredibly popular and affordable 100 proof series, like I talked about earlier in the best value category. It's tough to beat. It has broad distribution throughout the UK, Europe, here in Canada as well. The less thrifty, like decanter series with the giant cork tops, those are cool too, especially if you're partial to sherry casks. They have some really cool sherry cask matured whiskeys in those as well at older age statements. I think Signatory Vintage is going to take this category home. There's an outside chance I'd give to Thompson Brothers, especially on the back of the popularity of the Mystery Malt series and winning it last year. There's no reason to think that they shouldn't win this year, but there's just something in me that thinks Signatory Vintage has the edge. So I'm going with Signatory Vintage. The penultimate category here, the second to last, is Best World Whiskey, a category that celebrates the best whiskeys that the world has to offer outside of Scotland. And the nominations this year are Chichibu Ichiro's Malt on the Way, Circumstance Organic Single Grain Whiskey Series, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Kentucky Straight Bourbon, Filey Bay IPA Cask English Single Malt, Wireworks Bourbon Barrel English Single Malt, as well as the Nika Yoichi Japanese Single Malt. I hate to say it, guys, but this is the other category that I opted out of voting on. Because while I know about most of these whiskeys, I've only ever had 2 of them. And I have adored every Chichibu I've ever had. The Elijah Craig Barrel Proof has a cult following. Gregoire in Paris, Greg's Whiskey Guy, great channel, great person too, has spoken very highly of the Filey Bay whiskeys. Likewise, Jeff Whiskey, Jeff, he's spoken very highly of the Wireworks ex-bourbon barrel releases. And my favorite Japanese single malt spirit is in this category too, with the Nika Yoichi non-age statement. There's a lot that I think is worthy of being in this category. I just haven't had enough of them. So I'm sorry, I don't have a lot to offer in this category, but I will give you my prediction anyways, because why not? We're having fun here. So with very little confidence, my prediction is going to be that the Nika Yoichi Japanese single malt is the winner of this category. And why? It's just because it has the greatest distribution. The most people could actually try this, I believe, of any of the whiskeys. I could see, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof also taking it home partially because of this reason and the cult following it has, and maybe like a small chance of Wireworks. But I'm going to go with my prediction of Nika Yoichi, and I won't be surprised if it's Elijah Craig either. All right, guys, we've made it. The final category, the big award on the night, the one we've all been waiting for, or we will all be waiting for, on Saturday. Make sure you guys tune in, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. British Standard Time. Join me in the live chat. I hope to be there talking to you all. And yeah, let me know in the comments, guys, again, what your picks and predictions are in this video. Getting to the final category, Best Scotch Whiskey for 2025 in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards. The nominations are the Bruichladdich 18-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey, the Craigellachie 17-year-old single malt, the Deanston 18-year-old, the Glen Scotia 15-year-old, the Springbank 12-year-old cask strength, and the Springbank 18-year-old. What a murderer's row of fantastic whiskeys. Put each and every one of those on my shelf. Damn. It's the big award on the night, guys, and it's incredibly stiff competition this year. I will say it's nice to see 6 entirely different nominations this year as opposed to last year's finalists. And what's really particularly great about that is that if you take the 6 whiskeys that were nominated last year, you take the 6 whiskeys that were nominated this year, if you had all 12 of those whiskeys on your shelf, you have one hell of an incredible whiskey collection. That said, let's get to the actual nominees. Some of my thoughts on them here. The Craigellachie 17. What a lovely whiskey, guys. That somehow goes on sale on my market for right around $120 Canadian, sometimes less, sometimes $100 Canadian. I picked up a bottle in the past. If it was always at that price instead of closer to $200, it would be hard for me not to give it the win with its great quality to price ratio. The Bruichladdich 18-year-old is a phenomenal release that shows off just how pretty the Bruichladdich single malt spirit is when it is aged in a majority of bourbon casks and goes through 18 years of oxidative aging. Really, it's really hard not for me not to give the award to the Bruichladdich 18, especially with you guys knowing, if you've watched the channel before, how much I adore the Bruichladdich Distillery. However, this whiskey is not my winner. My winner this year, my pick, is also my prediction, and that is the Springbank 12-year-old cask strength. And I know that's going to anger some of you guys. It's going to make some people upset. People are frustrated that it's so hard to get Springbank single malt, let alone this specific release. That said, I want to emphasize celebrating what the distillery has made and put out at a really incredibly fair price. Now, this is the only whiskey on that list that has actually won my own personal Whiskey of the Year award in the past. 2 years ago, the Springbank 12 cask strength, this exact edition, it's what is in my glass right now. This is the 100% ex-bourbon cask edition. I did try one of this year's Springbank 12 cask strength releases, and it was phenomenal as well. That said, it's a Springbank single malt with a healthy age statement of 12 years at cask strength. And it's being sold at a price where I could take home, or you could take home, nearly 2 bottles of the Springbank 12 cask strength for the same price that you could pick up 1 bottle of that Bruichladdich 18-year-old. Now, there is the problem of actually finding 2 of these bottles on the shelf at the same time to purchase. But I digress, guys. That's not the point. It is a fantastic value. It is phenomenal whiskey that is worthy of Best Scotch Whisky Award. Springbank 12 cask strength is just the thing in beauty, and I could see it winning this category on the strength of its reputation alone. But the beautiful thing is it's not just its reputation. It really delivers on that quality. For those reasons, my pick, my prediction for the Best Scotch Whisky of 2025 is the Springbank 12-year-old cask strength. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for this OSWA pick and prediction video. Please like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you again for joining me here. I hope to see you guys all in the live chat on Saturday at 6 p.m. British Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm hoping to be in the chat talking to you all and seeing the winners roll in live. Until next time, guys, from the West Coast, my name is Matt. This is Whiskey on the West Coast. Let's launch.